everyone, and welcome to today's episode. We're going to be talking about Edge of Truth by Janice Cantore. So, this one is a romantic suspense novel and it fits within the Christian fiction category, and it's a standalone book. So, why did I want to read this one? Well, I've enjoyed reading books by Janice in the past, including Every Deadly Suspicion, and I have a book recommendation on my blog that you can find via a link in the show notes. And I also recorded episode 5 here on my show on Every Deadly Suspicion that you can look up as well. So I'm going to add my usual disclaimer and say many thanks to the publisher for providing an advance reader copy, and all the opinions that I express in this episode are completely my own. Now, I'm very excited to share that I have a giveaway. I've got a paperback copy for a reader with a USA mailing address, and all the details for the giveaway I will give you at the end of the episode. So let's talk about the book. Edge of Truth by Janice Cantore is set in Los Angeles, and our leading lady is based in the Long Beach Police Department. So, this one I describe as being probably 70% suspense and 30% romance. So, there is a romance in the story and there is a romance story arc, but it sort of sits a bit under the surface and it's a suspense plot that's more prominent in the story. So, if you're not a massively big fan of romance in romantic suspense and prefer straight suspense, then this book is probably one that you'll enjoy. And so there are a number of suspense and romance tropes in the story. So we have missing people in this one, and that's where we start the story. We learn about some missing people. We also have a cold case that connects to the prologue. We've got law enforcement characters. So our leading lady is a very strong, independent woman who is a police detective in the Long Beach Police Department. And our hero, he's an FBI agent, which is also fun. And it's a police procedural. So we have our characters who are working cases, investigating things that have happened as well, of what's going on in the world where they are. We also have a crime syndicate, which makes things complicated. There's a lot of players that turn up in this story as well, so you never quite know what's going on in terms of who the bad guy is. And we have forced proximity with our main characters having to work together. We also have a lovely, low-key, friends to more romance that sort of sits under the surface and bubbles along that I really enjoyed. And we have quite a lot of family drama in this one, which you'll discover in a minute. So we'll start by talking about the first line in the book, which is from the prologue, which is this one. Officer Lainey Jensen yawned as she patrolled her downtown Long Beach beat. So this introduces us to Lainey, who's our main character. And in the prologue, she's a rookie when this is happening. We're going 15 years back in the past. And on what seems to be a really boring shift where not much is happening, she does a routine traffic pullover. She pulls over a car who is driving erratically, running red lights, etc., and discovers there's a dead body in the car. So I'm not saying anything more about the prologue, but it definitely plays into what actually happens in the story as we move forward. So we'll talk more about Lainey. So she's 36 years old in chapter 1. So she was only in her early 20s in the prologue. And she's the police detective and she works in the violent crimes division, but her dream is to work in homicide. So she's very career focused, and they're the cases that she wants to work. And she also has a close family. She was raised in a Christian family, went to church. But over time, she's developed some issues with God, which we learn about in the story. And she's really drifted away from her faith. And that will all come out a bit as I go through. You'll hear a bit more about what's going on with her faith journey. So Ben is also around Laney's age and he's a Fed, so he's an FBI agent. And he's investigating a case in the Long Beach area and it overlaps with a case that Laney's involved in. So their meet cute is at work and it's pretty tense and she's really not happy to see him. The demarcation between the local police department and the feds can be tricky at times, and there are work issues that make their meet cute not the most pleasant experience, particularly from her perspective. But despite all of that, there is this attraction between them. And it's really a case of possibly right person, but it's definitely the wrong place and it's totally the wrong timing. And that really is where the romance kicks off in the story, with this little attraction that's there, but it's not the right time to be doing anything about it. Because there are so many problems in this story that connect up with the suspense plot. So we have two missing people from the get-go in the story that are probably the biggest concern. The first one is Lainey's sister. Now, this is her sister who's a worship leader at church. She's married, she's got young children, and she is like the perfect sister. And Lainey's looked at her as like the perfect Christian and with the perfect life where everything just goes her way and everything works well for her and she's so blessed, but then some really bad stuff happens and she's missing, and that really does turn Lainey's world upside down and affects their family as well. And we also have Ben, and this is what's drawing him into Long Beach. He's working a case, and his longtime partner and good friend has gone undercover and he hasn't checked in. So Ben suspects that his partner is missing and something really bad's happened. So that's what draws them together at the beginning. So we've also got the cold case with the dead body in the prologue, and that murder was never solved. And we find out more about that as the story progresses. We've got a very elusive crime boss who pulls the strings. He's a puppet master, pulls the strings behind the scenes, but is extremely difficult to locate for a bunch of reasons. And we have family drama because obviously with Lainey's sister going missing, that's really created a lot of stress and issues within the family. And as that all plays out, that gets more complicated as well. So this is a really emotionally hard case for Lainey to be dealing with because it is affecting her family. And we have unknown danger. We don't quite know when something's going to go wrong. The danger is lurking all the time. And we've got multiple mysteries, and they keep piling up as the story progresses. We'll learn something new, and a new mystery will come along. And it's really a case of all these jigsaw puzzle pieces that will somehow join together to solve all the cases. And for Lainey, as I said, this is really personal and really hard because this is her sister and she's got some guilt, and there's a few other issues she's got going on because she hasn't had a lot to do with her sister for a couple of years, and she's feeling really bad about that as well in terms of not being in close contact with her. And so a whole lot of Lainey's emotional baggage from the past really does get drawn out when her sister goes missing. And so I absolutely love the story. It was such a good read, and it took a few days to read it. And it was a bit of a resentful couple of days because I really didn't want to put this one down. But life happens and you have to live your life, and sometimes stories have to wait. But had I had a good run of time, I probably could have read this one within 24 hours because it really is a page turner. And I was thinking about the book when I wasn't reading it, wondering what was happening and puzzling through a few things as well. So I was very hooked and engaged with this story because the suspense plot was just so complicated and complex that it really did keep me guessing as all the intriguing mysteries started to add up in the story. And who's the target of the danger was a big question, and we weren't quite sure who was the target and why they were a target as well. And I really appreciated having to sit down and really think about who's in danger, why they're in danger, what's going on. There was a lot going on in this story. And being a police procedural, I always appreciate seeing the law enforcement people working their cases. So we're watching an FBI agent work his case, and we're also watching the police department doing their thing as well with the cases. And for Lainey, it's the family situation was really complicated and it was really well done. There was a lot of emotional depth that went in with what was happening in her family as well, dealing with some pretty major stuff. And she and her family was really having to grapple with some pretty hardcore betrayal that had happened. And I'm not saying any more because I'm not giving away spoilers, but things aren't what they seem at the beginning of the book. And as the story progresses, I really felt for Lainey and empathized with her as she was dealing with some really hard stuff that blindsided her and really blurred the distinction between work and her family as well, because she has people that she cares about that have been caught up with a whole lot of stuff relating to cases. And the romance was just lovely. And they did become friends as the story progressed. And I really appreciated how their friendship grew and developed as they got to know each other as the story progressed as well. So, my favorite book quote in the story is this one: God's hand could be seen in every life situation. And this is Lainey who's thinking this when she's reading her Bible. And I would describe this story as having strong and relevant faith elements. I really appreciated the faith elements in this one. So Lainey's faith journey is really complicated, and it goes back to stuff that's happened at work that's complicated her faith journey. And it was really interesting to ponder and think about the issues that she's faced in her job and how that can impact her relationship with God in a pretty big way as well. And the importance of truth was drawn out in the story, as you probably guessed, because of the title. And the consequences from what happens when there are people who are deceptive and there are people who behave badly and do the wrong thing. And when they're deceptive and dishonest, what that actually means and how that affects other people. All of those issues were drawn out in the story. And the story included forgiveness themes and justice themes as well that I really appreciated. So, in terms of the impact on me, there was a lot of danger, and you never quite knew when something was going to go wrong. So, I was worried about the characters pretty much all the time, which is why this book is a page turner and why I didn't want to put it down when I had to put it down. And we've got some really hard situations that Ben and Lainey are both dealing with as well. And I really empathized with them as they were working through some pretty hard stuff, particularly when your personal life and your work life become intertangled and it just gets really complicated and it's just emotionally difficult to work through some of the stuff that was going on. And those poignant moments I just really appreciated in the story as well. And the story also made me think about quite a few different things, and particularly as the secret reveals happened, sort of thinking about the consequences and how these situations happened. And I was also thinking about justice and how justice can be really hard to achieve. And often justice is outside of our control, and it's God's justice that is what prevails. And the characters, particularly Lainey, was on a really big learning curve in terms of justice. And also, how people can just be so deceptive and they wear masks and they pretend to be someone who they really aren't, and just how their bad behavior and their selfish decisions and their really poor choices that in their weird way they seem to be able to justify doing some really heinous, horrible, terrible things, and just how those behaviors and the things that they do, and they don't intend to hurt people, but people get massively hurt by a lot of this stuff as well. And it was just really interesting seeing all of that play out in the story as well. And also seeing how the characters that were hurt by some of this stuff had to deal with things as well. It was, yeah, it was a very insightful read from that perspective. So, in summary, I would recommend this book to readers who like romantic suspense, where the suspense is more prominent in the story than the romance, to readers who like low key friends to more romance that bubbles along with the suspense taking the front seat, to readers who like police procedurals where we get to see the main characters working cases, to readers who like the urban setting in Los Angeles and all the things that go with the urban police stuff and all of that, which is very different to a book set in a country town. To readers who like mysteries that include cold cases and missing people, to readers who like danger from unknown sources where you don't quite know what's going on until the end and who's behind everything and how it all connects together. It's quite a puzzle. And to readers who like family drama and strong faith elements that include justice and forgiveness themes. Thanks for joining me today. Does Edge of Truth sound like a book that you'd like to read? Have you read it? What did you think? You can let me know. If you're listening on the podcast, you can send me a text via a link in the show notes. If you're watching at YouTube, you can like the episode at YouTube and also leave a comment at YouTube. And you can also contact me via email, and you can do that at my website where I have a contact form, and you'll find that at narelleatkins.com. And if you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe. And you can do that at your favorite podcasting app, or you can subscribe at YouTube. And then you'll get a notification when my next episode drops and you won't miss any episodes. And also, if you've enjoyed this episode, please share the link with a friend, especially a friend who likes reading romantic suspense novels and a friend who you think would enjoy reading Janice's books. Now, let's talk about the giveaway. So, I've got one paperback copy of Edge of Truth, and that's for a reader who has a USA mailing address. So, the giveaway will close on February 25th, which is USA West Coast time, which is actually the 26th of February in Australia, but I'm using the American time zones. And there'll be a link to enter the giveaway in the show notes as well. So don't forget to enter before February 25th if you'd like to win a copy of Janice's books. So thanks for tuning in and see you next time.